Hello, Waswere here, back with another video, and today we're going over the mage buffs that were announced today for God Wars Dungeon 3. Spoiler alert, these are very, very good. There are a total of 4 rewards that we're going to talk about today. They revealed what these items are on Tuesday, but we're getting all the cool effects that they have today. Let's go in order, just as Jagex did. First we have Greater Concentrated Blast, and right away I can just say this is very, very good. As you can see in this little animation here, they're getting all 3 hits of Concentrated Blast, all in one global cooldown, so much faster than before. It deals 70 to 290% ability damage over 3 hits in one global cooldown, and that's up from the 48 to 246% that they were getting before. You don't need to worry about canceling it early or canceling late. Just as soon as you can use another ability, you should just go to the next one. This ability has an absolute ton of pros to it. It's a 180% average ability damage, which is 60% per tick. Currently, the next best basic is Dragon's Breath with a Dragon Rider amulet equipped, and that deals 42.5% damage per tick. So before we get into any sort of critical buffs that you get from using it, it's already the most damaging basic that Magic has. Speaking of that, Greater Conch also gives a 5% extra crit chance per hit, and that works with each hit of the ability. So the first hit will have 0%, the second hit will have 5%, and then the final hit has a 10% crit chance, which brings up that average ability damage above 60%. This is an incredibly powerful ability and rivals the potential of Greater Ricochet, especially when you use a Channeler's Ring with it. The critical hit chance on channeled ability goes up by 4% per hit. So the first hit will get 4% extra, the second hit will get 8% extra, and then the third hit will get 12% extra. When you combine that together, the critical chance on the final hit of Conch Blast is 22%. It also has amazing synergy with the next reward, the Staff of Armadill, which is RuneScape's first T95 weapon. I detailed this in a Reddit post, but its stats are mostly underwhelming for being the first T95 weapon. The Inquisitor Staff works much better as it's T97 damage when against melee class enemies, and while the accuracy on the Inquisitor Staff is lower at only about T91, you can easily reach 100% accuracy at almost every boss in the game currently. The only exceptions where you mage would be Telos and Virago. And then in places where the Inquisitor Staff special effect doesn't work, you're just probably going to stick with melee or ranged. And the only place that I can see people maging that they don't use Inquisitors at is Elite Dungeon. So if you're a big Elite Dungeon person, you probably will want a Staff of Armadill more than if you are someone who doesn't do that content as much. You can see it's a very beautiful weapon, and it can also be dyed. I'm quite partial to the Third Age dye, and I think that'll be a really big flex item with the Third Age dye. Beyond its stats, it also has a special attack instability, which deals 50 to 200% weapon damage immediately, and then every time you land a critical strike against your opponent in the next 30 seconds, your staff will fire an extra spell. The power of the special attack is really unknown at this point, as there are a lot of unanswered questions. What's the adren cost on the special attack? How much damage does the extra spell do? Does it remove itself when you swap weapons, like the Eldritch Crossbow effect? It's very hard to know where it'll fit till we can test it out in-game, and I'm excited to do that. Jagex themselves highlighted the synergy, and that's if you throw the Staff of Armadill into an essence of finality, you'll have a much larger power output. And that's because you can use the Channeler's Ring and Greater Concentrated Blast as mentioned above, and each hit of Conch increases your crit chance, and so does the Channeler's Ring. If you also have Biting 4, Erethdor's Grimoire, and the Channeler's Ring, you get the following crit chance buffs with Concentrated Blast. The first hit has 24.8%, the second hit has 33.8%, and the third hit has 42.8%. That also doesn't include natural critical hits, which are when you hit in the top 5% of your damage window, which happens about 5% of the time, so the crit chance is actually slightly higher than that. And when you couple that with a 5-second cooldown on Concentrated Blast and the bonus hits from the special attack, it's going to be absolutely insane. It also doesn't include the bonus adrenaline gain from Tsunami, which gives 10% extra adrenaline for every critical hit. With those above numbers, you average 1 crit per conch blast, making it a plus 18% adrenaline ability while Tsunami is active. And this could potentially rival Hydrix bolts for adrenaline gain while not costing nowhere near as much, as Hydrix bolts are currently about 40k each. Smoke Tendrils and Onslaught are the last ability to talk about, as they crit 100% of the time. That means if you use those abilities after using the Staff of Armadill special attack, it will be bonkers with free damage. This is going to be immensely fun to use and find out the meta. I'm definitely excited to do it. My personal entry level right away sort of thoughts on it is that I'm going to buy a Staff of Armadill. I'm going to chuck it in an Essence of Finality, and then I'm going to use Praisals and the Inquisitor's Staff as my main mage weapons. But we'll see how it turns out. The third item are Kerepac's wrist wraps, and they seem okay. I'm not totally sold on them right away. My biggest gripe is that it immediately adds to Switchscape, but that's not something Jagex can or they really want to control as much as I want them to do it. I'm going to be talking about them with the idea of camping them as something like a glove swap is only for a couple % of people at best, and if you're at the point where you're doing a glove swap, you probably don't need this video. They have a very cool effect. Basically what it does is that when you use Dragon Breath, if you use Combust within the next 6 seconds, which is basically 3 abilities, that the Combust ability will deal 25% more damage, and the target will be hit by all hits at once. So you'll get like 600 hits that go immediately on the target. The lunging perks work for this to increase the damage, so I guess lunging swaps are back on the menu for Mage. The real benefit of this is that you can properly use Combust in grouping encounters, as you don't need to worry about your bleed being overridden by other people. The downside is that you're unable to walk the ability to get the 2 times damage on Combust. I see this falling in as the glove to use in group mage bossing encounters where Cinderbanes don't work, something like Virago or Nex Angel of Death. The last item is the one I'm the least hyped for, and that's the Elder God Book for Jazz. And that's the reason why I'm the least hyped about this is that to understand how it works and whether it's going to be good or not, you really need to see it in action. And I can't do that when the content isn't out and I don't have a Jazz book. But let's start off with the good. It's the best in slot pocket slot item when not using charges, as it has +5 prayer and +8 style bonus, which is higher than the +4 prayer and +7 style bonus from regular god books. So if you're going to be AFKing a lot of things where you don't need anything for the pocket slot, you can just shove it in there and you'll do slightly more damage, use slightly less prayer, and it'll probably eventually pay for itself. So that's a very good thing to have right there, even if the special effect isn't very good. Now, the potential bad is that the Time Drift special effect could not do as much damage as the other pocket slots do, like the Scrimshaw or the Grimoires. It depends on how the cooldown works with how often you can get Time Rift procs. Looks like at most you'll be able to get 6 procs per minute, but that could be as low as 2 if the cooldown starts after the 10-second time is up. So it's really, again, something you need to see in action. There's a lot of unanswered questions about it, like the special attack. Can the ability crit when you throw it out, or is it only going to max out at 10k like Reprisal? What's the damage cap on it? And that's a bunch of questions that we'll have to find out by actually testing it. One thing I do want to note is that it's a slight quote-unquote nerf to 4-tick auto attack, because only damage from abilities is added up, and there's nothing about auto attack damage being included in that. So again, it might not work out as well for the people who 4-tick auto attack. I think this has potential to be good, but it's all about how many procs per minute you can get and whether we can control where the big hit goes through, like with Reprisal. I really like that the mobs drop the pages on top of the bosses, and it's not just coming from the boss, so we don't get into another situation like the Grimoire where it costs 8 mil an hour to use. I'm hoping this can be in the 2 to 3 mil per hour range to use if it is useful. That's a cost that I'm okay with, and I don't feel like I'm breaking the bank. There are more rewards, as they mentioned down here, that aren't tabled in here, and I like that they're not giving us everything. There's a lot of unanswered questions, and we can look forward to actually testing everything out on the update. Overall, great job, Jagex. I am properly hyped after these last 2 days, Tuesday and today, and I'm ready to bring all of you great content next week. Look forward to my first kill, a video on that, maybe a guide, and potentially a Bossman episode if we can get some lucky drops. If you want to be around for that, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you get notified right away when I upload. But past that, have a good day, and I'll catch you in the next one.